So the back of the O2R, if you do have to set one up, here's what we're dealing with back here. Number one here is our kind of main input output for the master area here. You can see we got a studio monitor out, which is a 1/4 inch, and we've got control room monitor out, which is also 1/4 inch. Then we have a stereo out section. The stereo out section here is for recording to your tape machine. So there's a couple of XLR outs here, and then there's so this one here is XLR outs, and then we have these little RCA outs. I don't know why they have RCA outs. RCA is a consumer level thing. We've talked about that before. I'm not sure why they have it on here, but they do. For our inputs for our analog section, if we're bringing the analog signal back into the board from our tape machine or something like that, we have 1 and 2 here. Number 1 is 1/4 inch, and of course number 2 is RCA. Number 2 and 3 over here. Let's move. Wait, I got this. Okay, so number 2 here is 17 through 24. It's just our line level inputs only, and then number 3 here is our 1 through 16. It's XLR, 1/4 inch, and then our inserts here as well. And like I said, this insert is a TRS, which you would use a split cable to split to 2 TS input, 2 TS cables. Everything would be male, and these would go to your like a compressor or something like that. And then this here, this line input here, remember this overrides the XLR input. Whoops, oh goodness, let's go back. Come on. Come on. Sorry, okay, there we go. Number 4 here, let's see, move it by hand, not by scroll. There we go. Number 4 here is the our card slots, and there's 4 card slots labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, which is a weird layout, but whatever. Again, it doesn't really matter. It just matters once you get into the board, it's just going to say slot 1, S1, S2, S3, S4, and you can have different card slots, cards that go into these. There's also a whole sorts of cards, and if you buy an O2R or you get your hands on an O2R, if you're working in a studio that has an O2R, then you should research what different cards you can get for it, but you don't really need to worry about that unless you actually own an O2R. But for most of these digital consoles, if they do have card slots in them, then they're all basically the same. You can they usually have like an ADAT. There's usually an AES EBU. There's usually like a SPDIF. There's usually like extra, 1/4 inch inputs or 1/4 inch outputs, stuff like that. It's all basically the same stuff. Over here on this side here, number 5, is all the other stuff here. So A is our Omni outs. This would also be used for our aux outs. If you want to have aux outs going out to external gear, like if you have an external reverb or something, you can set it up here. You could also use this for your surround sound if you're doing surround sound mixing with the board, which remember we are not doing surround sound mixing at SAE in New York. And then number 7 and 8 for us is what we have going to our headphone mixes. So we do have 1 through 8 all set up, and they're going into a patch bay. So you can patch them up to all sorts of stuff. Let's say you have an external reverb unit that you want to bring in, or an external effects unit that you wanted to bring in, or you have a keyboard that has some cool effects built into it that you can utilize, something like that. Then you could actually set this up for 1 through 8 here. You can actually plug in to come out of like number 1 or number 2. 7 and 8 are going for our headphones, so they're essentially off limits for that kind of stuff. B is an extra control thing. C is our word clock. If you're connecting up multiple digital pieces of gear together, you want to sync them up, and you can use the word clock for that. This is the type of thing where if you do have multiple pieces of digital gear, you should clock them up. So you should sync them up. What it basically means is, remember, we're talking about samples per second, right? So it's taking like a little picture of the audio X amount of times per second. So 44.1 is 44,100 samples per second. That's a lot of samples per second, right? Well, you want your gear, let's say this is a piece of gear A and this is a piece of gear B, or A should be on top and B on the bottom. And then I want them to take pictures at the same time. I want them to be synced up when they're recording that audio, that 44,100 frames per second, or samples per second. I want them to be taking pictures at the same time of that audio. Not like this one here, this one here, this one here, this one here, this one here. Like, I don't want them to be like that. I don't want them to be off. I want them to be lined up. Because if they're lined up, that signal is going to sound better. And that's what the word clock does for us. All right, then we have Cascade in and out, Cascade in and out. This allows you to connect up multiple O2Rs together. So if you can connect up to 4 of them. So if you have 4 of them, you can connect them up together. So you can have what is that? 56 times 4 is 256, I guess, something like that. Yep. So you can have that set up like that. I don't actually know if 256 is the right number, but whatever 56 times 4 is. 2, huh? I don't know. Actually, I'm not even going to try to do it off the math on my head. All right, and then we have E is MIDI here, in, out, and through. F is a meter for the meter bridge. That's always going to be connected up. And then you've got G is our tape timecode input, and you've got MIDI timecode, and you've got SMPTE timecode. SMPTE is for like film and stuff like that. MIDI is for MIDI devices. To host is a USB or serial. You can connect that up to your computer for things. And then you have over here our two-track digital in and out. So if you have a digital 2-track recording device, you can use AES-EBU or SPDIF there. And we talked about all that stuff just a couple of weeks ago with when we talked about our different cable types. So that's the back of the board right there. And that's really it. There's not a whole lot of extra stuff. It's all just right here in the notes. If you want to look at the notes, then it's all right there in the notes for you. So I'm going to go ahead and close that and stop this recording.